There we go. Welcome to Spilling Ink, the talk show that takes you behind the book to meet the authors and professionals in the publishing industry. We're back with two new authors and indie professionals to introduce you with this week. And as always, the wonderful Jason Lavelle as my co-host. Hey, Jason, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Katie. How about yourself? It looks like you're feeling nice and cool and refreshed out there in the desert.
I'm broiling over here. Oh my God. Can we swap spaces? I'll go to Michigan. You come here.
I'll tell you what, you've got the perfect winter home and I've got the perfect summer home. I don't know how we're going to make it work.
Say, you don't want to go to Michigan in August.
So who do we have with us tonight, Katie?
Well, tonight we have Amanda Mabry and Joe Compton, both indies as well as running their own blogs and indie talk shows. So I'm going to eeny, meeny, miny, mo. And Joe, let's have you introduce yourself first.
Sure. My name is Joe Compton. I am an author, a filmmaker, an indie artist extraordinaire, I guess. I run Go Indie Now, which is my platform for I do online. I do producing shows online, and I'm sure we'll get into what I do and how I do it. But that's me. And yeah, here's my book too. I have my book with me, so that's my book, my one book. But I have another one coming out this year. So
awesome! Well, glad to have you on the show, and we will definitely talk more about your stuff as we go on. Amanda, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself as well?
Sure. I am Amanda Mabry. I am an author and poet and artist. I am also the CEO of Our Right Side. We are a publisher and literary company built by authors for authors. I too have my one book and another one coming. And I also do a monthly podcast with two of my business partners, Beautiful Book Geeks, once a month, where we kind of do a casual book chat that it's not really professional. We cuss a lot, but it's fun.
I like that. I like that.
I want to, which I'm indirectly on every week, every time too.
Now, Amanda, I don't mean to alarm you, but there appears to be something burning behind you.
There's always something burning in my wake. That's what I do. I burn things down. Yeah. That was the incense. We're okay.
Okay, good deal. Yeah, it looks fancy. You've got like the Keurig over there and some incense, and man, I like it. Is this like your kind of a hippie writing den going on, a Zen space?
Well, if we're going to be completely transparent, this is my home office, and I am actually also a practicing witch, so it is also my altar space.
Awesome.
Cool.
A little bit of everything.
Okay, we're going to have to talk more about that. We're going to get back to that because I have about 6 million questions for you, actually. So.
hey, can I show my book too, since everyone got to show theirs?
I haven't shown mine, Katie.
Damn it!
All right, you show yours while I go find where mine are.
Okay, all right, cool. See, this one's my new baby, and This one just came out this week. Woohoo!
Congratulations!
Thank you. My brand new baby.
All of mine are on the bookshelf, and it's so far away, Katie. But they're back there. They're back there somewhere. So
I love Delia. That cover always like strikes me. Every time we do a show, I see it in the background. I'm like, oh, it's so pretty.
Yeah, and you know what? I love that cover, and the publisher bought that book, and they're completely changing the cover. Which I mean, I'm not in love with that. I'm not in love with changing the cover, to be honest, but. That was one of their stipulations.
Okay, I need to get a copy of that from you before you lose that cover completely, because I really like that cover.
I'll send that one to you because that's a good one.
Okay. All right, really cool.
I like all your art too, Jason. I love all the art back there.
Yeah, I really love original artwork, and I went to school to be a photographer, so I went to school with all sorts of artsy, geeky people and just fantastic artists. And the big ones up there are actually Laura Zombie, and I am just a big Laura Zombie fangirl. She creates amazing art, but I collect all sorts of weird, eclectic stuff. In fact, don't go away, Katie, because this is my wife got for me. So I'm gonna have to keep talking so that it stays on the screen, and I'm gonna come close and then back up. So this is something a local artist made. It is a baby head. Yes, in a jar with these cool black whatever the frick these damn things are. But isn't it amazing? That's the best floral arrangement. So I don't really know why she made that or if she somehow cursed me, but I love it. So
That was awesome.
yeah, she's a pretty weird lady. I love her. All right, Katie. So what were we talking about?
Leave it to Jason to always derail the conversation.
Yeah, but I'm stuck on that. I'm stuck on it now. Can I like get a picture of that later, Joe? Do you remember my story, Belladonna?
Yeah, sure.
Like I could see that being like a centerpiece on Luke Perdition's dining table.
Nice. I will snap a picture and I'll message it over to you later.
Awesome. I'll put a quote from the story on it and then credit you.
Nice. It's even creepier in real life. So
I love it.
I always like the skulls you have in the background, Jason. Those are always my favorite.
Well, they used to be Halloween decorations, but I took them and
they fit in your writing cave. They totally fit.
That's right. Oh, all right. So Joe, you barely held up your book for us.
Oh,
I want to know before we go any further, tell me what you write.
I write crime fiction. It's a crime thriller. And there it is. Hopefully people can see it. It's called Amongst the Killing. And it's a duality story. I'm kind of deep into dualities. So it's a dual perspective novel told in the perspective. One chapter is written by the detective on the case, and the next chapter is written by the mass murderer. And they trade chapters off one by one until they come across one another. So
I like it. And that's actually one of my favorite ways to write anything, is doing a little bit of head hopping, not necessarily within the same chapter. Because that gets a little overwhelming for people, but yeah, I really like going from one character to another, and I blame it on my own attention deficit. But I kind of like reading that way too, because it's like, okay, well, I'm getting a lot of this story, but now boom, I'm over to this other character and I'm getting their story too. So that's cool.
Yeah, I follow the philosophy that there's two sides to every story, and until you hear both sides, it's very hard to make a determination yourself about who to trust and who to like and all of that. And so this was kind of my take on that. The cop and I know it's kind of cliche for the cop and the murder thing, but that actually came in secondary. The story was really about two people, and then it just fit naturally with the whole landscape of what I was trying to do. And so I went with it. So
that's awesome. And I know that if you read up about formats for certain different for certain genres, if you're looking at mystery, if you're looking at suspense thriller, if you're looking at big action thriller, a lot of times they actually recommend trying that dueling viewpoints, because it adds a little bit of tension for the reader. And even if the reader knows that, okay, bad guy over here is doing this, they also know that good guy over here has no freaking idea. And so that in itself builds tension, which is kind of cool.
Yeah,
I'm
sorry.
Go right ahead. I'll just keep babbling otherwise.
I was going to say my favorite thing to hear from prospective readers is I never expected to care about the villain as much as I did, and that was kind of, it wasn't my aim, but it was kind of something that I thought about a lot when I was writing. So because, like I said, two sides to every story, and every story has good and bad in it, even within the context of, even if it's an antagonist or protagonist, everybody has a good and bad side. So I kind of wanted to explore that deeply, and that's what I tried to do.
Wasn't it George R.R. Martin who said that the bad guy is just a guy who feels like he's the good guy, but he's on the wrong side, or something to that effect? Yeah,
that sounds vaguely familiar. I don't know if that's George R. R. Martin. I think that George Lucas had that idea for sure.
I think it was Lucas. Yeah, and it's every bad guy is the protagonist in their own story, and I think that's a good thing for all of us to remember, is that even if we are just writing the most vile, disgusting piece of filth out there, they might not see themselves that way, and we might be writing the most carefree, sweet, and wholesome person that might just hate themselves to death, and that creates a whole lot of tension and conflict right there too. So how long has your book been out, Joe?
Since 2015.
Wholesome person that might just hate themselves to death, and that creates Somebody's watching the YouTube. It was you, Amanda, wasn't it?
I was trying to click to a tab so I could give you my author tagline because it fit, and I clicked the wrong tag.
What's your author tagline?
My author tagline is redeeming villains and scandalizing saints one chapter at a time.
What? Are you serious?
Yes.
That's
That's
awesome.
my favorite thing to do is to kind of knock good guys down a peg and help bad guys redeem themselves. That's what I like.
I love it.
Yeah. I like it. Well, so Amanda, tell us about your book.
Well, the one that I just published in March is actually a collection of short stories, and this one is called Darker Days, and all of the stories are dark fiction. Some of them are realistic, some of them have supernatural elements. They all touch on what it's like to be a victim, what it's like to deal with those bad things in life, and it does it in a very raw way, not candy coating anything. The point of it is to kind of give voices to those taboo victims that don't get a voice. And as a survivor of domestic violence myself, this particular series is a platform that I want to build off of to help other women who are in that same situation, not just women, but any victims. And outside of this, I write fantasy, and I have Soul Purge coming out in October, and that is a source of all supernatural type stories. I have a species called the Chthonian Guardians, and they are the origination of everything that we believe in: vampires, werewolves, witches. It's all just encounters with them and different activities that they're doing. But yeah, that's me.
I need to read that because that's like right up my alley.
I was just thinking that sounds right up Katie's alley, and I have been getting hooked on Doctor Who, and so in my head you're talking about this. I'm like, oh, that's like an alien species he could run into. But anyway, we can't talk about Doctor Who on this show.
No, we cannot.
Your collection of short stories. What is the title again?
It's Darker Days: The Storms Within.
Okay, and are these all your short stories, or is this an anthology of other authors?
These are all mine. This is actually my first solo. All my other stories have been in anthologies, but this is my first collection that's all my stories.
Here, hold that back a little bit so we can see it real good. Very cool. I like it. Very cool. So we had an author on last year, Katie, I think, that was also doing some anthology work, and she was trying to generate awareness for victims of different domestic abuse situations. And I think that's a really cool thing to kind of bring up, and in fact, victims of all sorts, because I think that as a society, I think that at least within my little echo chamber that I try to create for myself, that I have a lot of very sympathetic people that are really open to talking about things. But even amongst people who are open to talking about issues, a lot of times we don't want to hear about the really icky stuff. We don't want to hear about the things that make us very uncomfortable, and so they don't get brought to light. It's always, I don't know. I guess I don't really know what I'm trying to say, but I like that. I like that you're not just trying to paint a pretty picture, but given the real stories there.
They've got a neat twist to them. I've read a couple of the stories. I've been privileged enough to have Amanda on one of my shows doing a reading, and she's got a great angle and a way about her in her writing that really lends itself to kind of not hitting you over the head with it, but kind of bringing you into that and feeling that as the characters feel it. And she's very good at that.
Joe, you're making me blush.
We're going to have to put the links at the bottom of this video in the description so that everybody else who's watching either now or later will be able to find you guys and take a look at these books.
Yeah. Now, Amanda, you mentioned that you run a publishing company. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And that's
OWS Inc.
OWS Inc. Okay. And then who is Beautiful Book Geeks? What is that?
That is a podcast. So Heidi and Rebecca are both board members with me, and we do that once a month. And it's just a casual, we almost always have another author on with us. but it's not an author interview. Sometimes we talk about the books we like. We talk about Joshua Robinson a lot.
Who's
accidentally. Another author.
Oh.
Fantasy author. You'll know him soon if you don't know him now. But yeah, it's mostly just chit chat and hanging out with authors more casually. I know sometimes these shows can get nerve wracking for some people, so it's a nice icebreaker for people that are new to the podcasts and panels.
Okay,
it's always nice to do a show that's not straight interview. I know I said it to you guys privately, but I hate shows that are just hardcore interview questions. You know, what was your motivation? How did you create these characters? I prefer the talk shows where you're actually just engaging and it's open conversation and you see where it goes.
Yeah.
You know, and I was just thinking about this last week, Katie, because last week we had a couple of loose topics. What does your mug say? You keep holding it up just in front of the camera.
I'm sorry. It's our business logo.
Oh, see, she's got a badass mug too, Katie. Why don't we have a mug?
Because we don't have a budget for a mug right now.
Come on, show producer. I see those fancy covers and bookmarks and ID badges and bracelets and watches. We need mugs.
He wants a mug.
We'll
all right, I will find a way to get you a mug, damn it. All he wants is a mug.
Well, so last week we had a couple of loose topics that we wanted to talk about, and we ended up just we kind of chatted for an hour and we dipped into some things and dipped out and just kind of had a good time, and that's usually what our show is. But I was wondering, do people want more than that? Are people interested in just kind of nice, fun conversation and banter, or are they looking more for hard topics? Are they looking more for answers to this question and this question and this question? And we're fortunate enough tonight that we have, 4 people here that all work on talk shows about publications. So I'm wondering, what do you guys think? Do people seem to enjoy a more relaxed atmosphere? And not necessarily the guests, because I think it's really nice for the guests, but for viewers. I mean, do they like it better when you're saying, this is how you do this? Or do they like just kind of hearing us shoot the shit?
I think, Joe, you can verify this, but to me it seems like in the chats that run on the side, they tend to be a lot more lively when the show is a little more relaxed.
Yeah, I would say that's probably true. I think that's true even if you have a topic and you go with it. I think having a topic and running with it has a certain structure to it that allows you to ease the guests in too, so that they know that they're going in one direction. But as far as the interview stuff goes, I think I prefer having a conversation with somebody rather than just, having the stalwart questions. I have certain questions I ask of all my guests, but that I ask every guest. It's just to help the branding of my shows. But for the most part, I usually just end up having a conversation with them. And the interviews that a lot of people see on my shows are chopped down simply because the one thing I do say to all my guests is just be who you are and do what you have to do. And don't worry about, whether you're saying the right thing or this thing. I will make sure that it's the way that it's said and we'll get your point across. And
that's a good point. Let me just stop you right there. When we first started Spilling Ink, David, who is our other primary co-host, and he hasn't been on for a while, he was very worried about doing a live format because he didn't want guests to feel like if they said something wrong, that they would look bad on camera. He wanted us to be able to go back and edit everything before it went live so that everybody looked their best.
And that was, I think, an admirable thing.
Until the editing process killed it.
Until practical application. Because what it came down to is that's just a shitload of time in editing. And you know what? None of us wanted to do it. And so finally I harassed Katie over and over and over. Let's do some live shows. Let's do some live shows. And oh my God, it's so much more fun. And I sit down here and I think I have more fun doing the shows knowing that I don't have to spend 3 hours editing it later. So,
see, and I'm a filmmaker, so I've done that in my life, and so it's really easy for me to transition into that role and do that. But I do a live show every month as well, and because I like to mix it up, I like that interaction. There's a different interaction with a live show than there is with a scripted show or a show that has that it's going to be edited, because the live show allows for you to have multiple perspectives and have multiple conversations and it just flows a different way. And I appreciate that as well. But I think after a while too, with the live show, the one thing that I always get concerned with is, are we going too long? And is the conversation taking a turn that it shouldn't take? And that's where I like to have that control.
Well, and we run into that often here, and I am probably more guilty of it than anyone else, where I will get something that pops into my head. Like, I'm looking at Amanda, I'm thinking, man, I'm actually writing a story where I need to know some stuff about witchcraft, and I just want to talk about witchcraft, but I'm actually forcing myself not to bring it up. But yeah, so we can get really distracted and go on and on and on, and sometimes the shows run too long and we don't quite cover what we thought we were. But I don't know, I feel like if we're having a good time, then the viewers must be enjoying it too. But I don't know, Amanda, and that was kind of your take too. You like the more relaxed environment?
I do, and I would say I think most of Joe's shows are more relaxed than he realizes, so he does tend to follow a structure. But I will tell you that I, at one point, was absolutely terrified to be on live, and it has actually been Joe's coaching and being on with Joe multiple times that has got me more comfortable. So yeah, the formula that he uses, it works, and it's good. I just don't think he realizes that he relaxes people as much as he does. But yeah.
Fair enough.
If we're having fun, fun's contagious, whatever you're doing.
It is. Well, and I used to be terrified of speaking in front of people, and I know that Katie can feel this too, because I know that she's been mastering her public speaking fears as well. And in high school, I was petrified to speak in front of people, as I think a lot of us are when we're that age. And one thing I've learned, and being on this show has certainly been helpful for that, is that if someone asks you a question, it's okay to take your time to answer. You don't need to just start blah, 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 word vomit and make something up. Take a minute, breathe, form your words. And if you don't know the answer, say so. It's okay. It's okay to take your time, because when we try to react too quickly, we're not thinking about it, and then we're saying something that's going to make us look silly in the long run. But if you're me,
insert foot.
What's that? Yeah, exactly. I say if you're a guy that likes to wear sandals with bathing suits and Hawaiian shirts, then sometimes looking silly isn't a huge concern. Maybe it's just a concern for your wife when she has to go to the store with you sometimes. I don't know.
That's the other thing, though, and I really want to stress this when we have guests come on, especially the ones that are apprehensive about being on a live show. It's okay to be yourself. The viewers, your fans, the people that you've told about the show want to know you, the real you, not the fake you that you're trying to present. They're interested in you as a person as well as an author. So it's okay to be a little goofy.
I so prefer that. I think that's the only way you come across genuine, is being genuine. You can't fake that. And you guys talked about this actually last week on this show with your guest, and he was very good at being genuine and talking about that. And as you can tell, I'm a fan of this show as well. I watch this show, and you guys do a great job of keeping the dialogue open and free too. And so I think that's a great point. You have to relax. Just know that, hey, look, we're in a friendly environment. It's a safe place, and we're talking about something that we all love. So profess that love. Be crazy, goofy. It's fine. It works, and there's an audience for everything. So somebody will like you out there. I promise.
And also too, it's okay to laugh at yourself. Everybody's going to make a mistake, and sometimes being able to laugh at yourself is actually more endearing to people too.
Yes, and I'll tell you what, laughing at yourself is a sure way to diffuse almost any silly thing you might have done. Even if you make a completely horrible mistake, if you just laugh and say, you know what, that was an idiot thing to say. I don't know why I said that. People are going to be like, oh, I do that all the freaking time because we're people. I send out a newsletter every month, and I'm new to this newsletter game because
headache.
Yes.
So I'm not great at newsletters. I try to include I try to use actually L.M. Preston's format, and she was an author that was on, I think it was late last year. And her format was to tell a personal story, a little anecdote about things that are going on in her life, then talk about what she's doing, what she's writing, and then include freebies and gift cards, stuff like that, and people like that. So I've been trying to do this, and I've been struggling every month with what the hell kind of story do I tell about myself? Why on earth would people care about stories about myself? So it's always this generic stuff about, hey, we went to Vegas, we hung out with my buddy Katie Solitis, and we went hiking, and it was fun. And then last month, or earlier at the beginning of this month, I went through a really, really bad spot in my personal life where I was extremely depressed. I really couldn't see a way out of where I was in my own mental space. And so I'm writing this newsletter because I have to send the frickin' newsletter out every month anyway. And I end up writing about depression for a page. And I'd always told myself, don't ever write about stuff that's too personal because you don't want to polarize your audience. You don't want to freak people out. And I sent out this damn newsletter, and I have gotten more response to this than I ever have before. And I really think it's because I was talking about real shit, things that actually mattered to me, not just stuff that's on the surface that I would, chat with some guy on the street about. I was kind of pouring my heart out a little bit, and people seem to really like that. And
you're being genuine.
Yeah, and I think that says a lot about what our readers want is, they can look at your Amazon page or your website, and they can find out all about what you write.
That's why this format is so important. I think personally, I'm an advocate for this format. I will always be an advocate for this format because I think the one advantage we have as indies is that we're able to connect with our readership right then and there. And there's not a barrier. There's not a publicist that has a manager, that has a person that handles this part of this business and this part of this business for you. We can have a publicist, we can have a publisher, but we ultimately also can connect directly with our people, our readers, and our colleagues, and we can all talk about the same stuff. And there's just a kinship there. And when you connect with somebody directly, to me, I've always found the best sales that I've ever had are at book conventions and at festivals because I'm connecting with that person directly. And I'm talking passionately about whatever my book is and talking to them about who they are. Like somebody wears a cool shirt. Like I'll see somebody wearing an Iron Maiden shirt and go, oh, Iron Maiden shirt. How cool is that? You're just genuine with that person. You're talking to that person as a person. And I think that's one of the great advantages we have. And I think it's starting to dawn on everybody with the dawn of social media that's what was, we're so disconnected, but yet we could be so connected. I mean, I talk to people from Israel. I talk to people from Japan, and that could have never happened 15, 20 years ago. And so this format is so important for that. And I think that if you're an introvert, if you're scared, if you're somebody who doesn't want to be seen, you're going to have a harder time making it in this business because of that fact. And there's a safe space for you. There really is. Anybody who comes on my shows, who's introvert, who tells me they're an introvert, they've never done anything like this. It's important to note that you're in a safe spot and then you can talk and be who you are. And then they realize that they get addicted to it. They realize that, hey, it's not so bad,
Well, yeah, and we aren't we aren't in front of a live audience. We're live, but there aren't rows of people in front of me right now. So Amanda, who is over there, and maybe she's on air for the first time and she's feeling nervous. Well, she can do this and work her way into it, like you were saying. And it is a safe space, because even though they can see us and they can hear us, they're not right there. You know, you can turn your head and see the side of your bedroom or your office, or close your eyes if you really want to, and it's okay. And we always tell people that we will coach you through it. If you get stuck, we're gonna know, because we've been stuck before too. We're gonna ask you easy questions. We're gonna get you into it. Not you two, because we know that you guys know better, and we can ask you hard questions. But I just haven't thought of any yet.
But I only know better because you did that for me.
What? I didn't hear you, Amanda. Could you repeat that?
I was saying that I only know better now because of Joe, because what you're talking about right now is exactly what Joe did for me.
Joe, you sound like you're a hero.
I hope not.
Not all heroes wear capes, Joe.
That's right.
Hashtag right there, right at the bottom. Not all heroes wear capes.
That's right.
That's exactly what started, though, Spilling Ink, is when originally it was David and I, and we talked about it, and David has issues with anxiety. I have issues with anxiety. And this was initially a way to reach out to the audience to talk about things that we know about, obviously publishing, but both of us had issues with being public speakers. Mm. And so this was an excellent way to kind of get our feet wet and to slowly acclimate to that public speaking mentality that you have to be an indie author. It's not just being behind the book. You have to get out there and reach your audience somehow. And if you can't talk to them, how are you going to do that? And this was a great way to do it. And we found that through interviewing other authors, there are so many others who have the same fears that we have. And so it's just made it that much easier for us and that much easier to coach them as we bring them on the show. And it's wonderful. It's always a wonderful experience doing the show every week.
So, witchcraft. How long have you been into witchcraft?
Screw the topics tonight. We're just going to...
I have been practicing since 2011.
Okay. Now, you said that you yourself had been the victim of some domestic abuse, or I don't want to get into stuff that you're not comfortable talking about, but...
Fine. You name it. I've been there.
Okay. Is this something...
2011.
Okay.
So I kind of found this path. I gained some insight and courage from it.
Okay.
And then I left my old life behind. I packed up my kids in my car and I left the state of Florida, and I've been here in Ohio ever since.
Oh yeah.
So yeah.
Well, and I was going to ask if the witchcraft was something that was actually helped you heal from what you were going through.
It absolutely has. I get a lot of empowerment from it. I spent most of my life being very shy, very meek, easy victim, and this has really changed that for me. And I've also I have found my tribe. So both in the literary world and in the metaphysical world, I've learned that when you live your truth, you attract all the people to you that really should be around you. Yeah,
and I love that. And not to bring things back to myself, which I always seem to do. I'm kind of like Adele like that, aren't I, Katie? You know, I don't mean to always talk about myself. I'm not going to. Damn it! And can you show us your wall of witchcraftery again?
You want to see my stuff?
Yeah, let's see. Word witchcraftery, or is that just your made up word?
We're writers. We can make up words.
I love it.
Let's see. So,
is that a crystal ball? Is that a crystal ball? Can you see the future in it?
This one? Hold on.
No, the blue one.
Let me set my. Hold on. I have my vape plugged into my computer.
Is that herbs and spices?
That is herbs. Yes.
Oh, cool.
This is one of my.
Ooh.
So yes, I have crystals, I have herbs, I have tarot cards, This is my new deck. It's absolutely gorgeous. I just got
Oh,
it
that's pretty.
I'm excited. These are some of my favorite crystals, but not all of them.
Oh, they're all out of order now.
That's all right. They do it. This is a smudge stick that I made, and those are actually feathers from my parrot.
Oh, cool.
So
Cool.
She drops them for me.
That's awesome. Is she a green wing?
She is a military macaw.
Military. Okay. Very cool. Awesome. So now I don't want any specifics yet. That'll come later in the tons of details that I'll be sending you.
I missed my chair.
Well, I say we had a really strange view there for a couple of seconds. I was like, I wonder if she's gonna sit back down.
I know, went all the way down.
Have you ever experienced something actually happening because of a ritual or something that you've done within witchcraft?
I will give you a perfect example. Yesterday I did an abundance prayer. I carried a money stone in my pocket, and somebody who owed me money sent me $50 by the end of the day.
Shit, yeah. I like it. I like it. So what is your brand of witchcraft? Do you call it witchcraft? What do you call it?
No, I don't I'm not big on labels because I don't only practice witchcraft, because I study Jainism, I study Hindu. I'm in a shaman class because I'm going to get my 9 rights in shamanism. After that, I'm going to be doing Reiki. Which is the label I wear, but I am completely open-minded, open-hearted. I like to learn everything. I take the pieces that work for me and I use them. I do spell casting, and for me, spell casting is just like ritual prayer. It's not quote unquote magic the way you see it in movies. It's a way to pray and set intention, and then subconsciously, once you set an intention, you will do things to make it happen. You activate things in yourself.
Okay. Now you're in Ohio, you said. What part of Ohio are you in?
I am right outside of Cincinnati.
Okay, so that's far south, right?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm looking at the map in my head.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're southwest.
Okay.
We're in the tri-state area of Ohio, Kentucky, and Indiana.
I was going to say, because you're just across from Kentucky, I think, down there. So I'm in Michigan, so I'm not that far from you, although you are at the bottom of the state, and we are extremely conservative in West Michigan. How do you find it difficult to find people to chat with out in your community? How is your community accepting of you being into alternate stuff, or how
let me let you see my regular day. My day job, I am a barista in a coffee shop called Triple Moon Coffee.
Okay.
And on Thursdays and Fridays, I volunteer in a metaphysical shop on the same street, owned by the same owners, called The Living Tree. And our community, I have not had any backlash.
That's cool.
So, well, only positive.
And it sounds like you kind of work within your tribe too, which is cool.
Yes.
Okay.
That's important, though, to find not only your tribe, but be able to incorporate your life with them. Because once you have those people who help lift you up and help keep you going, you need to be with them as much as you possibly can. Because there's a lot of people who will drag you down or who don't support you. And that can just add to the whole depression, Jason, that you end up feeling in your life, or the loneliness you feel, especially being an author. Authors are usually very lonely in their craft. So finding that tribe of people is so important to keeping you not only healthy mentally, but able to continue working and to feel positive about what you're doing.
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, and I was just at family functions today. I think I told you that earlier, Katie, and I really dread going to family functions. It's not because I don't want to see him or her or whoever. It's because they're not my people. I really don't fit in with them. I'm a very sensitive person. I'm kind of my own little kind of weirdness. And For example, today at this family gathering, they were talking about the recent celebrity deaths that have happened. I think they were talking about Anthony Bourdain today. And 5 or 6 of the guys at this get-together, who are family members of mine, who know me quite well, were talking about how much it pisses them off when they see people, just saying they're depressed and so they're going to go kill themselves, and how it's such bullshit to do something like that, and how it's, fucking everybody else's life up. And I'm like, you know what? This is why I don't leave my house, because I don't want to talk to you guys. I would much rather be on this show talking to people that I don't know in Katy than dealing with family that I know doesn't understand or want to understand a world that they don't live in, or that they pretend that they don't live in. And it's frustrating not having because I don't have a home-based tribe, and I really wish I did.
Well, I'll be your tribe. And I think it's really important for us, and it's hard because the people out there that have those opinions. So I also suffer from chronic depression, and I also suffer from suicidal ideations. So it's hard to hear people have those opinions when they don't know. And it's hard to find the right words to explain to somebody to make them understand how in those moments it's not cowardice, it's not caring about anybody around you. It feels like the right decision, and it feels like the only decision, and it's really, really hard to pull out of that place. My husband knows my signs. He knows how to kind of slowly pull me back when I get that dark. But not everybody has that, and not everybody is comfortable. I had to train my husband to recognize my signs, and not everybody is comfortable to even reach out and train somebody around them to know what to look for when they're sinking. I am very grateful for the community I have online as well, I can post something on Facebook that would not seem out of line at all, but they know me well enough that they're going to send me a message and be like, what's up? You need to talk. I'm tearing up because I had a really rough week, and I have a friend in London who video called me and was like, let's go take a walk around the park. And he took me on FaceTime to a park in London and just walked me around. And we don't reach out when we need to, and it's important that people know how to reach out to us. But it's hard to teach people that.
Yeah.
That's when that tribe becomes so, so important, because like you said, you can't always just say, hey, I'm in a really bad place right now, because that feels like you're putting your burden on somebody else, and you don't want to do that, especially if you're already in that dark place. Jason, I know sometimes when you're quiet, I'm like, hey, dude, talk to me. What's up? Just because you're being quiet, because I know sometimes you can be in that dark place and you don't talk about it either.
Yeah. Well, because I don't know what to say. I mean, what the hell do you say? I mean,
everything sucks right now, and I don't need fancy, sweet words. I just need you to know that everything sucks right now for me.
Yep.
And everybody's different the way they handle it too. So you have to be conscious of that as well.
Well,
that's why I'm quiet. I just want to put for the record, I'm not in a dark place right now. I'm just listening. So
this is a great conversation. And again, it's a natural conversation. We are completely off topic, but I'm loving that we're openly discussing this right now.
Well, and there was, we could talk about depression for hours and days and weeks, and we could have a million people on here because we all have so many different experiences. And my own are my own kind of terrible. They're my own kind of shit. And I haven't been through half the things that Amanda's gone through, and I'm sure she hasn't been through half the things that I've gone through, but it all hurts just as bad. And when you're down there scrambling at the sides, wondering, okay, should I just kill myself this month and rid everybody else of the problems that they're having with me? There's no logic in there. And no matter how many people tell you to just use your head, you can't, because your head is fighting against you. Yeah. No, it's a terrible thing. And if you don't deal with depression or personality disorders, mental illnesses, that's awesome.
Well, and the stigma that surrounds it too is horrible, because the minute you admit that you have a problem or that you're depressed, then you're labeled as somehow deficient, somehow defective, and not somebody worth associating with.
Well, I don't know if it's even so much that with me anyway, but I'm always watching my wife, and I am super insecure guy, and I usually don't show it. I usually try to be really outgoing and funny around people. But I'm always watching her, and especially when I'm in the bad place, that's when I'm watching her even more, because I know she's watching me. I know she's listening. I know she knows that it's going really dark and bad, and I know it's gonna drive her crazy. And she loves me. She's with me, but by day 2 or 3 of me just being an absolute nightmare to be around, I'm like, why am I torturing this person that I love? Why am I putting her through this? Why would I put anyone through this? And that's what goes through my mind, and it's so hard to get out of it. And one of these days, I still worry that, okay, maybe next month I go down and I can never come out of it, and then what the hell's going to happen? And that's a scary thing.
Can I ask a question?
You sure can.
Does writing help you guys deal with that in some respect? Is that certainly an outlet that you turn to when you have those moments?
Sometimes.
Go ahead, Amanda.
It's therapeutic. This entire book is where I dump all my dark. Joe, you know me. I try to be positive. I try to be sunshine. This is where all my dark goes. Because if it didn't go here, I would probably be not sunshine. Yeah, writing is very therapeutic for me.
Well,
I know, Jason, you said that my Chronicle series was one of your favorites. And I can tell you that the entire time I wrote that, I was in a horribly dark place. And I channeled a lot of that darkness into that series.
Well, and that's probably part of the reason I connected with it so well, is because I'm that kind of person. I have a lot of shit in my head that I don't know how to deal with. And, I have a cycle where it's usually 3 to 5 days of, we'll just keep saying darkness. I like that. I like how it sounds. And for the first couple days, I know I'm going down, and I'll start writing depressing poetry. I'll start writing the nasty scenes of the stories that I've been putting off. But once I'm all the way down there, I'm really not functional at all until I start coming back up. And then I recognize that, okay, this was part of the cycle that I go through. I'm coming back, I'm breathing again, and now I can start being productive. But when I'm all the way down, the writing isn't therapeutic for me. And in fact, when I try, I'll become more frustrated because I'm not able to write good sentences. I'm not able to structure things correctly. I'm not able to make an accurate description. It's the dumbest shit ever.
But that's okay. Remember what we said about the first draft sucking. You're supposed to do that. You're supposed to write shit on that first draft. It's okay.
That's for those of us that can survive editing, and I am terrible at editing. So that first draft's got to be better. Okay, so we've got a lot of darkness going on here right now, and that brings up a very important topic that I've been wanting to talk about for several weeks now, and that is book stuffing.
That was a great segue.
So I'm going to be clear here. I don't know anything about book stuffing, but Katie knows all about book stuffing. Take it away, Katie.
Wow, what a great way to bring it back on topic. Okay, so.
Look, I have 2 things written. Book stuffing is one of them. Depress everyone is the other one.
We're like 5 minutes from the end of the show, and he's like, oh, shit, topics. Book stuffing, yes. So when you shove all of that negativity into a book, no, sorry.
Wait, that's what we do, isn't it?
I think we need to just run with what we're talking about, because there is no way we're going to actually stay on topic in the next 5 minutes.
Well, we need something for Joe to talk about. Joe, what do you want to talk about, buddy?
Oh, it's fine. No, it's fine. I I applaud you all for talking about this. This is amazing to me. I'm sorry if I'm not that vocal or visible to people out there. I'm just enjoying this conversation. Well, enjoying is probably the wrong adjective, isn't it?
No,
absorbing.
It's very topical right now because we have had some very public celebrity deaths, connected with depression, and people don't understand that it's there whether you see it or not.
And along the lines of Anthony Bourdain, there's another side of his equation that a lot of people aren't talking about. Well, they're glancing over it, and that's his drug abuse problems and the things that he had problems with, and that was part of his clinical depression as well, was that he found this solace by going into this deeper hole with drugs, and that's something I've had personal experience with people and knowing people who have gone down those rabbit holes, and it's a really hard thing to deal with when you're faced with it. And I think that anybody who talks out of turn and says things that, everybody has a right to their own opinion and their own idea, but experiencing those things, you become there's a different perspective that you gain. And it's very important, I think, when you have that perspective, to help understand help those people and help understand what you can do that would be okay and be all right, because we all have good intentions. We all have this idea that we're going to be okay. We can help you, if you just talk to us, but there's something about a disconnect that you have clinically that you can't just talk to us. It's not that easy. And I think that we have to be sensitive to that. We have to respect that. And we have to, for people who aren't on that side, who want to help and want to be there, just being there sometimes is a helpful thing. And it's not always what they need, what people need. So you have to look at it and just make sure that you're just there, and whatever they need, whatever you can give, that's what you should reflect.
Well, and I agree completely. Hey, hon.
I think as an artist,
Okay.
Let me just say this while Jason's distracted for a minute. As an artist, it's very hard to produce in the cycle of art and actually make money from it and actually continue to gain your readers and continue to focus on your readers and maintain this level. It's like the constant treadmill that you're on that you can't get off of, because the minute you get off of, you lose one piece of the puzzle and everything falls apart. And so you feel like, well, I need to do whatever it is that it keeps me going, whether it's people who end up sleep deprived and they're taking sleep medication to help them at least get a few hours of sleep a night, or whether it's the other side, the people with the attention deficit issues that are taking Adderall and other drugs to help keep them up so they can continue to produce. It's just a cycle that continues and gets worse and worse over time. And again, being an artist is very isolating. And so you feel like you're alone. You don't have that tribe of people who's supporting you. And as you continue on and on and on, it doesn't matter how successful you get, the path is still the same. And then at some point, people hit their breaking point and they either completely collapse, as we're seeing with some, very, very high profile people. I mean, Kate Spade, come on now. Yeah. Anthony Bourdain, come on. Yeah. These are not low profile people. Well, and they're fighting these same demons that we're all fighting.
Yeah. And when it comes down to it, it's to say it's all relative isn't saying enough, because I live in a very modest home. It's a nice house. I have a car and a motorcycle. I have a hot tub out back. It's great. I mean, by all rights, I have a very, very nice life. But when I get depressed, none of it matters. I'll be out in the backyard looking at the tree branches and trying to determine which one of them is going to give me the correct drop to end my own life, even though I've got a fenced-in backyard, which is exactly what I wanted all my life. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you've got $1 billion in the bank and you've got a line of designer handbags. The depression is going to hit you just the same. And
the other side of it too, though, is when you're on that constant treadmill and you're thinking, if that branch falls and breaks something in the backyard, I'm one bill away from bankruptcy.
Yeah.
I can't afford for any disasters to happen.
Yeah.
There's that side too.
And there's no logic to depression. There,
No.
as much as we try to rationalize it, because I'm the same way, Jason. I'll be like, I had the worst life until I was 30. I was abused every single day for as long as I can remember. I never felt safe my entire life. Since 2011, I've been safe. I own a home. I have a car. I have a job. And still this depression will come and I'll be like, you can't even justify this depression because you're safe now. You don't suffer from any of the things that you suffered from before. It doesn't make sense. And then you feel guilty. Or I feel guilty. I'm not projecting. I feel guilty. Like, I don't deserve to feel depressed. What's wrong with me?
Yeah. And then you don't talk to people about it because you feel like you don't have a right to talk to people because you don't have real shit to be depressed about, right?
Right. Exactly.
And I think that you made a great point, Amanda, and it's something that I think that we all, everyone, not just people who suffer from depression, we all need a tribe that will recognize when something's going down with us, because when I get bad, I don't want to talk to anybody. I don't want to talk about it, but hopefully somebody's going to be there anyway. You know, whether it's my wife or my mom or Katie or Amanda or Joe, whoever the hell it is, you know, somebody's got to be looking out for you. And that's a tough thing to do because we all have our own very busy lives and we all have all of our own shit to deal with. It's tough to be looking out for your friends, but
I'll tell you, and this is going to sound weird, but I have a checklist. I check on a lot of my friends. I have a list of people that I worry about in particular, and I keep it on a checklist because you're right. Life does get busy and we forget to reach out. And I keep this list handy so that I remember, you know, that I need to check on these people. You know, it's been 3 days, it's been a week. I need to run through my list and check on, you know, these ones that I particularly worry about. And that's the only way I can keep up. You know, social media, we're tapped into thousands of people every day, all these voices in our head and all these people to connect with. But I've got my list.
You know, and I'm going to do that too. I'm actually writing that down right now because I think that's a really smart thing to do. In fact, just earlier today, when I was at work, I was thinking, you know, I haven't heard from this one particular person in a couple weeks, and I know she's still posting online, but it's weird that I haven't gotten a message from her, and I should probably send her a message. And I would have totally forgotten if you weren't just talking about I need to make a list. And that's a good idea. Now I do want to talk about one thing that has to do with writing tonight. Katie, I want you to look at Joe, and I want you to look at what he's wearing. You see, he's got a T-shirt that has his show's name on it. That's glorious.
Several, actually. This is just one of many.
It wasn't enough that I made us dragon T-shirts for the dragon convention. Now I've got to make Spilling Ink T-shirts.
You know what? I really like the dragon. I still wear the dragon T-shirt all the freaking time here. I love the dragon T-shirt. But okay, so that's not actually what I was going to say. I was just trying to be funny to cover up the real pain underneath. So, Joe.
Remember what I said about one tree branch away from just losing it all?
Right.
There you go.
You guys don't have trees out there, do you?
Yeah, we do. Palm trees.
They don't have branches. Okay, so Joe. So Joe, you were talking and you were making good sense and you were making good points. And my note here that I wanted to talk to you about was good point. Talk to him. What the fuck was the point I wanted to talk to you about? But what I think it was kind of related to is you were talking about how we're all going through things a little differently and how we all have our own situations. And there's a very cute little picture, a little meme that goes around at least on my Facebook, since I'm an animal lover. That's two dogs. One is a Chihuahua, one's a big Great Dane, and they've clearly walked through a mud puddle. And on the Great Dane, the mud puddle comes up to its shins, its stifle. And on the Chihuahua, it's up to its neck. And the idea is that we all go through the same shit differently. And I think that we all need to remember that just because Joe might be able to walk through fire and heroically rescue Amanda, I might walk through that same fire and collapse and burn up. You know, we all do go through the same shit differently. And to kind of try to bring this into writing, even though it's going to be a little bit of a stretch, I think that when we're writing, when we're telling stories, especially when they have some personal relevance or they're dealing with deeper topics, things like depression or abuse or any of the bad shit that goes on in the world today, that the most effective way to communicate that is not to give a grand scheme, a wide view of everything, but to look at it through the eyes of that particular person. So if Anthony has issues with substance abuse and with depression and with this, that we're not just talking about Anthony in the third person the whole time and saying this is Anthony and this is this and this. Show us what he's feeling. My kids were born, I remember 9/11 clear as day, because we stopped work, we went and we watched that second plane hit the tower, and it messed me up for a lot of years. And I am also a very sensitive guy, and I was thinking about these individual people. And now when my kids learn about 9/11 in school and they're listening to a teacher or reading out of a textbook how, okay, X amount of Americans were killed when this and this happened. Well, they're hearing what happened, but the emotional impact isn't there because they're not experiencing it through the eyes of one of the people that went through this, even if it was one of us that was just watching it on TV as it happened that day. And I think that that's an important thing to remember while we're writing, is that no one else knows what we're experiencing or what our characters are experiencing unless we show them how it's going down. They're not going to know. They're not going to know that while Joe sits in the studio nodding, he's really thinking about going and grabbing that Heineken and then saving somebody from shark-infested waters, unless we tell them that.
Typical Joe.
That's typical Joe. We know it. He's just a damn hero. I don't know. You know,
that day was particularly fucked up for me. I had along with watching, I was watching the first tower burn and then the second plane. There was so much going on in that day. And so emotionally, I was just spent by the end of the day of that one. But I have nieces and nephews who weren't born during that time. And it's really odd to talk to them. You know, they're getting to an age where they can understand things and to express my emotions toward how I felt during that it can be trying. And so I agree with you. Show, not tell. It's so important to give that description, because I wasn't alive when Kennedy was shot, but I can tell you from things I've seen and read that I can feel the emotion of why it was so important and such an incredible turning point in American history, you know, because of the accounts.
Well, that's exactly right. It's the accounts that you read. It's the documentaries that you watch. And I'll tell you what, I mean, it makes all the difference in the world. It makes all the difference in the world. It really does. So
there's a topic for another show.
Yeah.
Show, don't tell versus purple prose.
Oh my God in heaven. That's a great topic. And we will have to talk about this again because, you know, now it's been an hour, but
if Jason lets us talk about it.
Yes. Well, I'll tell you what, and Katie has tried to start this discussion with me before. My publisher, who has picked up a series of thrillers from me, won't let me use a certain word. The word was. They hate the word was. They hate it. It's
versus my editor, who doesn't mind the word was.
Yes, and the problem is that sometimes you need the word was to say something very simple. But they absolutely hate it. They don't like what it does to the storytelling because they have a very active storytelling model that they like to follow. However, when you skip certain easy to use words that might be considered lazy by some, you run the risk of becoming very purple or using far too many words and being far too descriptive when you really don't need to be. You know, I always loved Stephen King's On Writing, where, you know, he says, you know, cut all the extra shit out If it doesn't need to be there, don't put it in there. Make your sentences shorter. It gives them more impact. But I don't know. Katie, what do you think? I know you really like purple stuff. You got a purple flower behind you.
It's really, it has to do with your style. And that's the thing. Not every writer has the same style. And sometimes using was is not the issue. It's how you're telling the story. And it's got to fit with how you tell the story. Otherwise, it's not going to have your voice.
Is there somebody pointing a laser pointer at your face or something?
Do I have a dot on my face?
You had a red dot on your face just a second ago.
Oh, no.
Who's pointing a laser pointer at Katie?
I think they found me. We might have to go quickly before something bad happens.
That's freaking me out, man. All right, so I've completely derailed our list of topics tonight, and we had good stuff to talk to you guys about. But it just didn't happen because we want to talk about depression instead.
And that's the beauty of a freeform show.
Well, so what do you guys want to tell us about your shows or your books or upcoming projects that you might have that before we go, we can at least share with our viewers?
I would say my main thing is if you are going to submit to our Glass and Ashes anthology, submissions close on Friday.
What's our Glass and Ashes anthology?
Glass and Ashes, we are doing an anthology of Cinderella reimaginings. So, yeah, that closes Friday. Okay.
Well, sorry, Katie. So tell me a little bit about your publishing company.
So Our Right Side, I founded it in 2015. We are run by a fantastic team of volunteers. We work hands-on with all our authors. We handpick them. We love our authors so much. We publish an array of genres, and we're opening up the floor for more. For next year, we're booked for this year and half of next year already. But my train of thought just. We're really great, I promise.
We will make sure that we will put all the links at the description below this video so anybody can find your information easy. Don't worry about it.
So you are a small press publisher then?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful.
Yeah, we are kind of, we consider ourselves indie because that's the way that we work. Okay. We're small, the way that we work with authors, the way that we're training our authors to, we're very hands-on. We do a lot of marketing for them. But at the same time, behind the scenes, we are teaching them every day how to market themselves, and we are holding their hands and giving them everything they need to do it.
Hello, little person in the background. Oh, I like your hair. That's awesome hair. Show us your hair. Yes.
This would be my swan.
I had to come in. I did something.
That is the awesomest hair.
Yeah. I'm like from Whoville. I'm like one of them.
Yeah.
Yes.
Tape my nose up like this.
If the Who's were like spawns of Satan.
Yeah. That's why I have the red on.
So do you practice witchcraft with your mom?
I do it in my secret lair.
Sweet. I like it. All right, Joe, is there anything you want to talk about before we go?
Sure. I can just mention real quickly that I have my live panel show coming up on Friday. It's going to be, our topic is dealing with rejection, which is something that we're all very familiar with. And it's going to be a great show. And Goindy Now is an online platform that supports, fosters, and highlights and promotes indie artists of all art forms. So I do that through the shows that I produce, and I have a flagship show, a live show. I do a weekly show on Facebook. I will be soon doing a daily show on Instagram. And so we'll just keep on pumping out content. So I hope you guys check us out.
Awesome. And you know what? I've never had to deal with rejection as a writer. So this is something that I feel like I need to experience.
Right.
Because even the greatest of the great need to feel humbled at times. Am I right, Joe? You know what I'm talking about.
Humbled is, yeah, I would think so. But I also think that, it's something that everybody deals with a different way. And so I think it's important to talk about it for sure.
You're lying.
She's awesome. She can be part of the show.
She just killed my love.
You know you have makeup on. I have a black shirt on.
It's not gonna come on my shirt, Mom.
You were just petting a cat a minute ago, getting cat hair all over your shirt.
Yeah.
Makeup's a totally different story, though.
All right, well, guys,
It's not getting on yet. Told you.
we are getting overtime for tonight, and everyone's getting a little restless. I apologize for hijacking our show and talking about mental illness instead, but seriously.
I think it was very topical, actually. I think you did a good job.
Look out for your friends. That's really all we can do. Love your friends.
I think we need to hashtag that. Look out for your friends. That would be a really good one to throw on this show.
Yeah.
Ew!
Thanks for having me, everybody.
Yes, thank you guys both for joining us this week on Spilling Ink. We loved your input. And thanks for sharing your personal stories of depression, because that's extremely helpful. And I think our visitors and our viewers will really enjoy that as well. And hopefully they can take something from it and also look out for their friends.
And thank you to Amanda's daughter for coming in and making us laugh there, even though you're trying to cut her out of the picture.
All right, guys, that's it for this week's episode of Spilling Ink. Be sure to check back with us next week when we will have more authors to talk to and more interesting topics that Jason will hijack for us. Hit that like and subscribe button, share this with your friends, and we'll see you again next week, guys. Bye-bye.
Have a good night, everybody.